opening days he's played. He lost last year to Detroit, and they know they want to start fast. We on?
Yep, we're on. So let's talk about tonight's season opener. Mark, you could go first. What do you think feeling?
Book it. Call in your bet now. Chiefs are going to win. Chiefs are going to win, but they're not going to cover. I have a Kansas City 28. Oh, the Ravens 27. All right. I'm going to repeat that because it's worth repeating. Book it now. Bet it. It's good to go. Kansas City will win the game, but they won't cover. Chiefs 28, Ravens 27.
What was your line about the Chiefs in the last home openers?
Pat Mahomes has won 5 out of the last 6 home openers. Plays like a superstar in the last 5. Plays Detroit last year. Detroit jumped on him. Nobody expected Detroit to be as good as they were last year. Pat Mahomes wants to start fast. They're talking about starting fast. They know this is the kickoff game of the year. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. I look for them to win, but not to cover.
Here's a new stat for you. 5 out of 7 Ravens take the points.
Okay. 5 out of 7 the Ravens beat them, but not to go to sleep, but not in the
Running legal show, well over 30 years it's been around, with one sole purpose: to answer your legal questions. Any legal questions that you might have. To answer your legal questions, we don't send you a bill. We try to point you in the right direction. We do our best to answer your questions on anything legally speaking. Child supports, divorce, custody. I always bring on one of the best family law attorneys around. Good guy, great human being. I'll introduce him momentarily. He can answer all those questions for you. And everything else. Wills, estates. Are you the executor? Do you need a trust? Auto accidents, dog bites, speeding tickets, any type of legal dispute that you might have. We take on all comers and try to answer your questions. Here's the only rub I have for you. If you have a legal question, you have to call me right now, because I free up all of our lines. And I kid you not, if you're a regular listener, you hear it all the time. I cannot get all the calls on in the hour at the end of the program. So if you want to get on, the time to call is now, because we clear our lines right when we start the program at 330-729-9977. That's 330-729-9977. What's the number, Ron? I told you twice. It's 330-729-9977. If you have a legal question, pick up the phone, call us now. You'll be put on hold, and we'll hook you up with some of the finest legal minds in our community. 330-729-9977. 330-729-9977 for any and all legal questions that you might have. Call right now. Now it's all brought to you by Beatrice Kopp. We go to the law firm. I just know, and I sit back and I say, well, he went to Italy, but I know he's back, and he needs to always stay there. And I think I should be the one that grants him whether he should go on vacation, because I was probably the person who missed him more than anybody. Attorney Mark DeVecchio, hello.
Great to be here, Ron. Thank you. Hello to you. And I promise I will run all my future plans through you before I commit to anything.
Right, because you know what? That was he was in Italy for like 2 weeks, folks, and
10 days.
I was sitting here 10 days is close enough to 2 weeks. And I was sitting here saying, you know what? I miss DeVecchio.
I missed you, Ron. I thought about you when I was eating all that pizza and pasta and drinking Negronis.
Yeah, sure you did. And those guys, what were the names of your relatives over there? I mean, it sounded like a
Rocco Beato.
Movie.
Rocco Beato. I have a cousin that runs this little smoke shop.
Yeah. Now, does he kiss you on both cheeks and all that kind of stuff?
Oh,
like
God. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you got to be careful. We can't say his name too many times.
There you go. All right. Now, who's at the round table with Attorney Mark DeVecchio tonight?
Attorney James Melfi is present and accounted for.
The pride and joy of the Girard, Ohio, Girard High School, right, Melfi?
That's correct.
Were you an Indian? Were you an Indian?
I was an Indian.
Girard Indians?
Forever an Indian.
All right. Everybody knows Melfi graduated top of his class. You were the valedictorian, right, Jim?
Not quite.
You had to be up there, though.
I was up there. Yeah.
All right.
I had a lot of
quite.
other
All right,
interests
Jim.
at the time.
We are expecting Attorney Frank Cassis to come down. He's on a call right now, so he will be joining us, but he will be joining us in progress as the show is in progress.
All right. But Attorney James Melfi joins us as well. James, talk a little bit about what you do at the firm. We know DeVecchio does family law a lot. What type of law do you mainly deal with at the firm?
I mainly deal with all types of civil litigation, whether that's personal injury, medical malpractice, or any type of business litigation.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that sounds exciting.
Ron, before
Right, Mark?
we take a call, could I share a brief little story with you? I got to give a shout out to somebody, some unknown hero out there. I have to give a shout out to.
Oh, I want to hear this. Absolutely.
So, as you know, last Thursday, we did not have a show because Youngstown State was opening the season. So we got bumped for Youngstown State. So I thought it's a good time to run my errands, drop off my dry cleaning, pick up my dry cleaning, do my grocery shopping, do my banking. So I'm running around running my errands. I went to the grocery store. I went home, dropped off my groceries. I was driving to the bank, and I realized I didn't have my checkbook. Drove home, tore the house apart, tore my car apart, was driving back to the grocery store when my bank called me and said, somebody turned in your checkbook. So I would like to give a shout out to that unnamed, unknown person who restored my faith in humanity. God bless you. I hope good things come your
wait
way.
a second. Where'd you leave your checkbook at then?
The best I could think is it was in my back pocket when I was loading up my groceries, leaning into the car, bending down. You know, it must have fallen out of my back pocket.
My question
All
is,
right, what grocery store?
Giant Eagle in Boardman.
who carries
All
a
right, just
checkbook
so
still?
I do. I'm
well, I
old-time.
do too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I carry one. You know, I got to do that. But needless to say, you know, there are good people. That's, you know, if somebody finds a cell phone and, you know, they try to give it back, or somebody finds a wallet, or somebody finds your bank card or whatever, there are still good people who do that, and that's a great shout out. Now, let me give a shout out to one other before you go further. Were you at the? I waved to a guy that I thought it was you, potentially you. The other day, like 2 days ago, at Chipotle in Canfield. Did you go to a Chipotle in Canfield, get something to go?
Yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday during lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was me.
And were you and were you driving a Kia?
Yeah.
I thought it was you.
I didn't see you wave.
I know, but I pulled in with Eric Verb, and I said, I think that's DeVecchio. I saw him coming across the parking lot. And of course, you know, I was just stunned by your greatness.
Right.
And you went flying by me. Good thing there weren't any speed cameras there.
That's right.
And I waved and I said, you know, there goes DeVecchio.
Son of a gun. If I would have known, I would have bought you lunch.
That's what I was thinking. So my point is, the good deed you talked about, your checkbook, is a beautiful deed.
Yes. And pass
but
it.
there could have been an even better deed had you bought lunch.
Right. Well, I tell you what, rain check on that.
Know, I thought to myself, if that was James Melfi, I know he would have bought lunch. I know he would have stopped. Right, Jim?
I would have stopped, and I would have got lunch, and you could have got double chicken on me too. So it's all good.
Oh, yes. I'm loving Melfi. All right. You guys, well, I got a call or two. Hey, 330-729-9977, 330-729-9977. We'll get you through to us. Let's see what awaits us. You're on the air. Hello.
Hello there.
Yes. Legal question, please.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. I have my wife, her parents just died probably about 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they lived in Arizona, and they had a house, and there was no will. What how would we go about seeing who would get what on that house, you know?
Yeah,
No will.
was there a surviving
No will.
any surviving spouse?
No, they're both died, like the wife and her, you know, her husband both died.
Does your wife have any siblings?
Yeah, she does. She has two brothers and a sister.
So the assets would probably pass to the four of them in quarter interests, but you'd have to go to the county in Arizona because that's where the estate would be opened, because that's where the property is. Correct, Jimmy?
That's correct. I'd call a probate lawyer in Arizona.
I would call the bar association from the county where the house resides. Ask for a referral, a probate lawyer. Tell them your situation. They will
Keyword,
refer.
you want a probate lawyer, just so listen to what they said. Okay.
Okay.
They will recommend someone from that county, and you could do it in absentia. You could have a lawyer, you know, file whatever necessary paperwork it is, do whatever you have to do. Is your wife in contact with her siblings? Because it'd be better if they did it collectively.
Yes, she is, but the one just wants to take possession of the house automatic, you know.
Well, the one that wants the house could buy out the other three. They could buy out their shares, but the one that wants the house only owns a quarter of it. So each of the siblings own a quarter.
Well, he claims, you know, he's the type of guy that just wants to take it and that's it, you know. But legally, I guess he can, huh? And as long as he can hire a lawyer and find out. Huh?
Yes. And I'm sorry for your wife's loss.
Okay, well, I have to call. call out there to Arizona and find out.
Yeah.
Okay, I thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Thank
luck,
you
sir.
for your call.
Thank you.
You know, just as a side note, DeVecchio and Melfi, as a side note, and I think that this is a good thing that I heard a financial guy when I was in Florida a while back on a great financial guy on a station that made this point, and I passed it along to everybody. He said, when you take Social Security, you know, at whatever age you take it, that's the government telling you, get your affairs in order because you're closer to the end than the beginning.
Makes sense.
And he was saying that, and he did it himself. He said he made sure he sat down with an estate attorney and determined whether he needed things in a trust or things or in a spillover will and this kind of stuff. And he said, everybody, all of you listening, it's something that you have to do when you get on Social Security. And don't say I have one. You need to have an updated one, and because to avoid these type of headaches. By the way, Mark, did you go to the Canfield Fair?
I did. I went Friday.
No. Why did my mic stop working? Do you hear me?
Barely.
Hello.
I could barely. It's a whisper.
Oh, okay. I don't know why my mic. I don't know. I'm having a problem with my mic. I got to get John Clark in here. All right. Let's take another call. But here's the reality. Here is the reality I want you to know, Mark. The guy, the probate judge had a great display at the Canfield Fair. He had a wonderful display to show you how you should title your cars so that you can avoid probate. Rusu is his name, right? The probate judge.
Judge Rusu is a great judge.
Yeah, he had a wonderful display. And I highly recommend that to people, if they got those flyers, on how you can title things to avoid probate.
But you know what, Ron? A little teaching moment. A little teaching moment here. If you do not have a will, your assets pass by lines of sanguinity. So the surviving spouse would be the first in line. If there is no surviving spouse, they look to the children. Okay. If there are no children, they look to grandchildren. If there are no grandchildren, they look to siblings of the deceased. So, I mean, they don't just willy-nilly it. If you die without a will, there is a rhyme or reason to how your assets pass. It's just better to have a will than not to have a will.
You want to avoid the headache.
Absolutely. You know, a will is like insurance.
All right.
You know, you hate to pay that bill every month, but when you need insurance, you're happy you have it. That's what a will is.
All right. My mic isn't working very good, so let's take another call. You're on the air with the attorneys. Go ahead, please. What's your question?
Is that me?
Yes, go ahead. Ask your question.
Am I on?
Yes. What's your question?
Okay. I fell down at the courthouse steps and broke my hip. And I understand that you can't sue Mahoning County. They got immunity.
Well, yes, the city has immunity, but Jimmy, you could go. I would answer that.
It's an immunity issue unless they're reckless in some regard. If they're purely negligent,
well, it was snowing that day back in March. Back in March, it snowed, and they got one big step. You know, after you get up there, I was coming out, and I missed that step.
Well,
I fell down.
The steps are visible, so if it's not a hidden, like a latent kind of an issue, they're right there. You know, you got to go up and down steps. So if you fall up or down a step, you know, and because we live in Ohio, we can expect a natural accumulation of snow. So unless they were put on notice, somebody fell before you.
Well, my other issue is this. I took out an accident policy, strictly accident, and it's only $19 a month. I tell you what company it is, but anyway, I went to the emergency room, and then I had surgery the next day, and I was in the hospital for 4 days. And on the thing itself, it says you're at level 5. It pays $1,200 for the emergency room, $1,200 a day while you're in a room, and it would pay $1,200 a day once you get home for the number of days you were in the hospital. Well, I filed the claim, and they only sent me. They said it got some kind of amendment or something. It's only paying as slip and fall, you know, which it was a slip and fall. It was an accident. So they send me a check for $1,800. Now if I cash the check, that, you know, I want somebody, an attorney, insurance attorney or something to look at this thing.
Don't cash the
Don't
check.
cash the
They
check.
only pay-
If you want more money, do not cash that check.
If you cash the check, you're done. That's
means,
it.
It means you've accepted the terms of the settlement.
Okay, no, well, I still got the check. I didn't cash it because it said $1,200, and then they said I was only in the hospital 3 days. I was there Monday, the emergency room, and they gave me a room that night, and they released me on Thursday after dinner. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 4 days. They only want to pay 3. They gave me $900 plus the $900.
Well, maybe it's nights that they were counting.
$1,800.
You were in there 3 nights.
Now you have to read these policies very carefully because there's a definitional
Just
section
days, I
in
don't know.
those. So before you cash that check, I'd have an attorney look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you recommend somebody? That's what I was calling for.
Jim Melfi.
You know, and
Make an appointment with Jim Melfi. He'll look at it for you.
okay, but call your office, Beatrice, and
Cop. Yes.
okay, Beatrice and Cop, and ask for Melfi.
Yes. 330-746-8484. Once again, 330-746-8484 is the number.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow or maybe Monday next week.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Ron, we got to get your mic fixed. Well, right now, this is an uncomfortable moment of silence. I don't know if we're on the radio.
Yeah, hey,
Okay. I hear the caller.
real quick, you were talking about wills.
You're on the air with the attorneys. Hello, you're on the air. Go ahead.
If I leave my house to my wife, right,
Yeah.
is there a stipulation that I can say that she can't sell it and has to leave it to my children on her death?
I don't believe there is.
No.
Jim, what do you think?
No.
I mean, you leave it to her. You can't put any step. Now, you could create things for your children. You could create a trust.
Trust. You would have
Yeah,
to do
you're
that
li-
by way of trust.
Yeah. The only way you could have stipulations is if you do a trust and not a will.
Okay, not a living deed.
No, because when you pass on, it would go to her automatically, and that would be hers in fee simple. She would own it outright. She could do whatever she wants with it. If you put the home in a trust and you put a condition on it that she could live in the house for the rest of her life, and at the time of her death, it passes to the children, I think you might be able to accomplish something like that.
Yeah.
Jim, I'll let you answer that.
I agree with Mark on that. But if you do it by transfer on death designation,
You're not.
it's hers and she can do with it whatever she wants after you pass.
Okay.
Because that's how I received this house. It was upon the death of my father and my mother. Okay? And there
Okay.
was a span of a good 15 years between the death of the two of them. Then it passed to me,
Okay.
and it was a living deed. So I was wondering if I could do the same thing in a will.
Well, no, you're conflating things here. A will is one thing. The deed is something completely different.
Okay.
So you could do a joint and survivor deed where you put her on the deed. When you pass, it automatically goes to her. You don't have to probate it. That's probably how you got the house in the first place. Now, just an aside, because you inherited that house from your parents, that's a non-marital asset. That doesn't belong to her until you pass, and then it would be, become hers if you put her on the deed or you put her in the will.
Okay.
But if you utilize a will, anything you give in a will, I don't think you could put any conditions on it. I
No.
mean, you're giving it to them outright.
Good. Once I'm dead, that's it. My opinion don't matter.
Well,
Well,
but
and
there
let
were
me
no
answer this, Mark,
restrictions.
on his behalf.
Yeah,
He could do a trust, and he has more power in a trust, does he not?
Yeah,
Much more
that's
than he would in a will.
that's exactly what we suggested. You could put qualifiers on a trust.
Yeah.
You could put restrictions. You could do that. In a will, I don't know. Well, I'm not going to say you can't absolutely. You may be able to, but I don't know about, because you don't know how long she's going to live. You don't know what's going to happen during the course of her life. So when you got your house from your parents, there were no qualifiers. There were no restrictions put on it. You just got the house because your parents passed away. And the same thing would apply if you pass away to her.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. I understand that. And there's probably tax advantages also to a trust.
I would
I would
imagine.
assume.
Let me back up on his behalf. Just a couple of questions. I mean, in all reality, a lot of times, if you want to avoid the look back period, if you do it 5 years before you reach that point, you can put stuff in a trust so that you don't lose all of your assets if you go in a nursing home. True, Mark?
True.
All right. So, and in a trust, you can.
5 years?
Yeah. So, how old are you?
Okay.
How old are you?
Same age as you, Ron.
You're 45, like I am. Okay.
Yeah, about 20 years.
All right.
20 years.
Thanks a
I've
lot.
been 45.
Thanks a lot, pal. You snatched my hope away. All right. So you're my age. So how much good time do you have left? I mean, no, you're at the right age.
No, I'll go before my wife. Trust me.
All right.
She
So
has
listen to me.
longevity.
Listen to me. You're at the age to where you probably want to look at a trust because you can protect your assets from a nursing home, and perhaps both of you should do that. Would you agree with that, Mark?
I would agree wholeheartedly.
Wholeheartedly. Welcome back.
And,
Thank you.
all right. Thank you, guys.
All right. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break here. Guys, do me this favor. You got to do this for me because I had to make a studio change here. Remain quiet during our commercial breaks, okay? Don't say anything because I don't have control over that. We'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. News Radio 5.
result.
And especially if you know you're going to go into an assisted living or a nursing home scenario,
Then
get
you
that
need
in-
an irrevocable
yeah,
trust.
you need to get that in order.
Now, what does that mean, though, when you use the term irrevocable trust? What does that mean?
Okay, so I'm definitely not the trust expert, but I will give you my understanding 101. When it's a revocable trust and I create it, I'm in charge of it. I could use it as my personal bank account. I could do what I want with it. And if it's convenient to me, I could revoke the trust and liquidate it and sell the assets. If it's an irrevocable trust, someone's in charge of it. I could be in charge of it, but it is a separate entity unto itself. I don't control it. I could make investments. I could put money in it. I could move things around, but it is not mine to open and close. There's a little bit more restriction when it comes to an irrevocable trust. Jimmy, anything you'd like to add?
No, 100% right, Mark.
There's ways to avoid probates, but there's not. But there's a trust is the best way to avoid the look back period and losing your assets. Are we in agreement there?
I agree.
It's the only
Yes.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, as I was saying to you guys at the fair, I thought Rusu, the probate judge, had a great booth that he had out there. If you went in a government building, and he had pamphlets, and I picked a couple of them up, and it told you, all of you listening to me, it told you how you can go down and get your car title. So if you die, it will go to your son without going through a probate, or daughter, or to whomever. You can do this on a car title. If you don't do it and you die and it's in your name, it's more of a headache.
Yes.
You also can do that on your house. When you die, it goes to someone.
And your bank
And
accounts.
obviously, Ben, it's important, Mark.
Yes.
Just to review this for a second, that everybody listening to this, and I mean everybody, I don't care what age you are. Everybody listening, you should have beneficiaries on your checking account, your savings account, all of your bank accounts, your 401ks, any financial thing. You must have beneficiaries. If you have beneficiaries on it, it can avoid probate. If you don't have beneficiaries on it, it is a mess. So make sure you have beneficiaries on all of that stuff. And a lot of people don't. Checking accounts, savings accounts.
And I
Will
would
you give me an II captain on that?
absolutely. You could, and I would retitle the car and add whomever you want to take the car, put their name on the title of the car. You could do that. Put their name on the deed to the house. You could do that. And those would also pass without the necessity of a probate court if they're on
Right.
the title. So
Right.
you're 100%.
And that all Mark avoids probate.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. And believe me, all of you listening should do this. Most of you listening probably haven't done it, but Russo has pamphlets on that. If I'm sure you could call and get you one. It'll tell you, you just go down to what, I don't know what they call, I call it the old Southside Hospital, and you redo the title with, I think they put on it with right of survivorship or something
Yeah.
to this person.
Right.
And that way your car avoids it. What's they call it? Joint title of, so if I die, the house
Joint
goes
rights
to
with
my wife.
survivorship.
There you go. Beneficiaries on bank accounts. Now you avoided probate altogether on this stuff, which is a good thing. Everybody should do it. That doesn't mean, though, you avoid the look back period on nursing homes.
Well, there is something called a Medicaid trust. So there is a trust designed just for that specific instance. When you go into a home, there are still look back. There's look backs on everything when you're dealing with Medicaid and nursing homes and things like that. But there are trusts that are tailored to those specific needs.
Yeah. I mean, it is, I hate to say especially, estate planning, estate attorneys truly is a specialty too. That, you can say, I knew a guy, let me give you this example, Mark. I knew a guy that went through a divorce and he got a real good deal on a guy that was a lawyer, but he wasn't a divorce attorney, but he gave him a really good price.
Wow.
And he lost everything.
Well, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, it wasn't a good deal for him. There's like niches in the law that you want to make sure you get the right person to do your estate planning that knows the ins and outs of this kind of stuff. But for the last guy that's my age, he should be doing it now. Don't wait till you're 80 or 75, or those of you that are listening that are in your 30s and 40s. listen to what I'm saying when it comes to your car titles and your bank accounts. Get them beneficiaries on there because it is a mess if you don't have it, and you avoid the probate. I give Russo credit for having that down at the fair
And what I
for
think,
people to be able to learn this.
and what's really informative too, is the car title, because people know typically your homes, your 401ks, your checking
Right.
savings accounts. People forget about the cars. I think that's a very good idea.
And if you don't have somebody on a car title, you have to open a limited estate just to deal with that car.
And I've seen it. I see it a bunch that people are just transferring cars through probate.
Ron, I'm going to stop at the probate court before the next show, and I'm going to see if I can find those forms. I'm going to ask for those forms.
It's a pamphlet too that he had at the fair. So if you
I will
would,
check
if you
it
would
out.
do that,
Yes.
and listen to me, Melfi. Are you ready for this, Melfi?
I'm ready, Ron.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe your father is the same age as I am, so you better remind him the same thing. All right, because we're all getting older. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of a mediocre. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm waiting for what's coming next.
That's it.
There's no punchline.
Oh, just for okay.
I mean, I believe we're the same age, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe a year or two difference either way.
How old's your dad?
66.
Okay, so we're the same age.
Yeah.
All right. You're on the air.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Hey, long story short, we have a will that was, wrote both ways, whoever dies first, and then ownership proceeds to the first one that dies and then the second one that dies. But they both died within 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
We've already
Wow.
that was a lot of fun.
Sorry.
And we've probated the contents of the house, which we've valued at $0, and it's gone. One of our family, which is only 3 brothers, 2 of them didn't want the car, and we gave it to the brother that wanted the car. But how do we speed up the process and light a fire under the brother's butt that is the executor of the estate? We just need to get the house sold. It's been 3 years. Is there any process that we can, move the process along with the executor of the will?
I'm sure you could file a motion in court. In fact, I would imagine, and I haven't done many estates. Have you, Jimmy?
Not many,
Yes.
but if they're acting,
If they're neglecting their duties, okay, they have a fiduciary duty to the deceased to follow through on the wishes. Okay, now if there were 2 wills, one for the one spouse, everything went to the other spouse,
Yeah, they
whoever-
were worded exactly the same except for the person that went first. If the
and then you guys
husband died, it went to the wife. If the wife died, it went to the husband.
and you brothers were the sole beneficiaries.
Then it went to the 3 sons, and one of the sons was the executor. And it's been 3 years, and he's dragging his ass.
All right, well, I file a motion to remove the executor. He's obviously not performing the duties that he was appointed to perform. So you could file, and you want to talk about shaking him up. That would shake him up. File a motion to remove him as the executor, volunteer your own services to be the executor for the purposes of selling the house. The reason you're filing the motion is he's not expediently performing his duties. It's been 3 years. The house hasn't even been listed.
Yeah, has it been on the market?
And you can't let an asset decrease in value. That's the executor should protect the value of the assets.
Depreciation. I understand
Right.
what's going on. Yes.
And now's probably the time. Interest rates are high, but houses are still selling.
It doesn't matter. I just want to be done with the process.
Well, I would recommend you file a motion to remove him. And you could even do it in a joint motion with the remaining siblings if they're interested. If they want to be executors, you could try to be co-executors.
Oh, yeah. We talk all the time, and then we talk to the other one, and yada, 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 and blah, 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 blah.
Probate.
He won't get off his ass and move. So
the probate court there's a lot of forms. Okay, the reason there's a lot of filling out forms. It's a lot of paper pushing in probate court. A lot of filling in forms.
Yeah,
I bet if you
know.
went down there, they probably have a form with a motion to remove an executor, and then you would just fill it out and file it.
Okay, so it's in Trumbull County. I go to the Trumbull County Courthouse.
I'd call first and ask if there's a form to remove an executor. They may refer you to a website.
The forms are online.
Yeah,
In Trumbull County.
Yeah, if you go online, you'll find a form to remove the executor. Print it out.
Okay.
Finish
well,
it.
let's
File
say
it.
that. Let's say I'm a baby boomer and never had a computer, and don't want to go through the hassle of buying a computer.
Go to a library.
Public library.
Yeah, you got to get. Or don't you have kids that have one? Yeah, you got to get a little hip here, dude.
Hey, you know what? The only reason I have a flip phone is to say, "Hey, the truck broke down. Come and get me."
Oh my God!
And after that, it's going to be target practice. And if you want to talk to me, leave a message on my answering machine.
All right. Well, I'll hook you up on a CB. Thanks for your call.
Channel.
All right.
Although I kind of identify with that guy. I mean, you and I have checkbooks. Melfi looked at me like he saw a ghost. He's like, "What's a
I've
checkbook?"
written maybe 4 or 5 checks in my life.
Dear God.
I don't know. I don't know how you function. I got to pay. I write checks all the time. You know, my garbage company. I got to write a check for them. There's certain things you have to write a check for. It's not that
Autopay.
big a deal.
No, I like to look at my ledger.
Everybody does. Everybody doesn't do auto pay. There are plenty of businesses that don't have auto pay.
Yeah, they have
Listen,
flip phones.
Melfi,
I know no computers.
I'm not talking flip phones. You see right here. This isn't a flip phone. This is a bag phone I'm using. I haven't.
What?
Never mind. Mark got the joke.
I remember bag phones. Yeah, the phone was bigger than your head.
Yeah,
This is way over my head right now.
right. I mean, come on. At least you got it, DeVecchio.
Absolutely. And so did probably half the listening audience.
Right, exactly. 330-729-9977. 330-729-9977. I have 2 lines open if you've got a legal question. Our attorneys are with us tonight, Attorney Mark DeVecchio and Attorney Melfi. 330-729-9977. Pick up the phone, give us a call, and get your legal question answered. You have till 6 tonight. You're on the air. Hello.
If I get a report,
You can't get any legal question
one.
answered. And that's, he's a persistent bugger. I will say that about
Do
him.
you have caller ID at the station, Ron? Do you recognize the number?
I don't reveal anything that we have here on our inside
you're
facilities.
like in the Bat Cave, right?
It's top secret, Mark.
I
We don't
got you.
reveal anything we have going on here. It's the iHeart complex.
I got you.
We welcome all, but from my standpoint, I welcome all whack jobs.
It's good radio.
I'm more than happy to to occupy the guy's time, because at least that way he's off the streets. Let me put it that way. And
You're keeping Youngstown safe.
I'm keeping some communities safe somewhere, Mark. It's my duty to do such a thing. I mean, I really think, in all seriousness, tonight's broadcast, because there's been a lot of questions about basically wills and estates, I think it's one of the most important topics to cover for people. I mean, I just think people drop the ball too often and think they're going to live forever.
Well,
but how many calls have you guys had on this program from people who die without a will, or people that unexpectedly die, and the headaches that come from it, Mark?
A lot. And there's one guarantee. I mean, we all come with an expiration date. Yeah. We are all going to leave our mortal coil. We're going to leave this earth at some point in time. So you should be prepared for it, for your loved ones.
Right. And when it comes to beneficiaries, as we were talking about, life changes too. You got to make sure you review them every year, because let's say if you get divorced, and maybe you had your wife as ex-wife as a beneficiary, you want to take her off of there.
I'll do you
put
one.
Your new wife on there.
Well, I'll do you one better. If you have children with your first wife and something happens with your first wife, you get divorced or she passes and you remarry, you better make arrangements for your children in some kind of whether it be a will, a trust of some nature. Because if you pass on and your intention was to leave something for your children, but you have a surviving spouse that is not the mother of those children, they're going to have problems. Your children are going to have problems.
It just become a mess. You don't want the probate court determining where your stuff goes. Although our dear friend from previous Beatrice Cop shows says, on the same hand, Mark, you shouldn't fear the probate court, right? I mean, a lot of people are fear the court or fear the charges that come. There's also, a misconception there too.
Well, those judges, they're elected officials. We put them in office. They serve to the people that elected them. Now, I've never been in Trumbull County Probate Court, I have to be honest. But Rob Russo, Judge Russo, is a personal friend of mine. He's a wonderful man. He's a great judge. And he forgot more about probate than I'll ever know. So, and he's so helpful that it's not a place to be feared. That they want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Right. Trust me.
Right. And the guy's so qualified to do that job. I mean, I hear nothing but great things about how he's handling that situation. All right. So let's see what I got here. You're on the air. Hello. Line 1, are you there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's me, right?
Yes.
Hey, are you at all dialed in on copyright law?
What's your question?
Well, I mean, I do a lot of stuff, that artwork kind of stuff, and the question is, what I understand is that you have an automatic copyright on your artwork or whatever you design for 2 years without registering it, and after that, if it's not registered, it's open season. Anybody can take it and use it. Am I correct in assuming that, or what I heard from an attorney, or wherever I heard it?
Neither Jimmy nor I are copyright lawyers. That's now you talk about probate. Lawyers that do probate. Copyright lawyers are even more of a specialty. There's fewer of them around here. But I can tell you this: I can share personal experience with you. I wrote songs in my younger days, and I registered all of them. So there was never going to be an issue with the songs I wrote and put out on CDs. I mean, if you're concerned about it, it's not hard. You got to get an image of the art you produced and register it, and then you're protected. It's not all that, believe me, if it was overly time consuming, I probably wouldn't have registered the songs, but it's really not. It's a lot of filling out forms and sending copies of the art that you produced.
Oh man, I'm in a bad area breaking up here.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay, so a friend of mine did a deal for Orange County Choppers, who's a painter, and he took him to court and he won. I mean, they used his image on their screensaver and their men's cologne bottle, a bunch of places, and he took them to task. And I guess the place where you hear these cases is in Texas. At the time, it was anyway. And he went down there and he came back with a pocket full of fun tickets. I mean, he cleaned them out. He didn't clean them out, but he won a ton of money because they refused to. They sent him a cease and desist letter. His attorney did, and they refused to, take it down. And they went to court and he won. And so they're pretty fierce as far as protecting your stuff. I mean, the copyright office or whatever they're called, they're pretty fierce in protecting your stuff. I know that.
Well, that's why they exist. That's their job.
And that's federal
jurisdiction. Right.
That's a federal court that hears those cases.
Yeah, mine are registered federally. I sent it to Washington.
Yeah, I guess. I'm sorry.
I believe I registered.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to talk over you.
That's okay. Well, I think I talked anyway. He said that the fine, the penalty was $20,000 or $25,000 per image or usage of that person's artwork. If you have, depending on how close it is to the image, and if they altered it any, or they have to make that decision. But if it's a dead ringer, if somebody just takes your stuff and uses it, like Harley Davidson's logo or General Motors or anybody's image, you decide to take that, use it as your business. They can Disney, same one. They'll come after you like with guns blazing.
Like Chief Wahoo, you see a lot of people still doing that and selling that, and that's a copyrighted thing. I get what you're saying. I appreciate it. It's just like, Mark, if you do song lyrics, they was always told, put it in an envelope and mail it to yourself, and then don't open it. It's dated so that you can show that you had that idea at the time or the lyrics at the time.
Yeah, but I remember when I did 3 CDs worth of songs, and I wanted to register them, and I looked it up, and it's forms. Once again, you fill out the forms. They tell you where to send them, what to send it with. and there's a fee involved, but it's not exorbitant. It wasn't I seem to remember $15 or something like that. So I did it. I sent the paperwork in. I can't remember if I got what I got back, but
Right.
but I know, and I sent it to I think I sent it to somewhere in Washington.
As I did when I
DC.
wrote, remember the song I wrote, Mark? The only two things in life that make it worth living is guitars that tune good and firm feeling women. I don't need my name in the marquee lights. I got my song and I got you with me tonight. Maybe it's time we get back to the basics of love. Remember that song I wrote?
No.
Let's go to Luke in Buck, Texas. Waylon, Willie, and the boys. You don't remember that? I thought I wrote that
I
song.
thought you wrote the song called "You're the Reason Why Our Kids Are So Ugly." That's
Well, that was my follow-up song. That was the B-side. All right. I'm giving you the A side. You know what I mean? But
Yes.
the B side was, why are the kids so ugly? Yes. That was it. All right, DeVecchio. You're on the air, caller. You got a question? Hello.
Yeah, you're talking about wills. I have a will, and I made all my three children executors, but really, I don't want any of them to do it. What should I do?
Well, no, you can't have three executors. You can't. You name one, and then you could have a second choice.
You may have an alternate.
Yeah, that's an alternate. If you want to get them, not have them be an executor, and you shouldn't because one of them's a beneficiary. I mean, you should probably name an executor that's not a beneficiary under your will. You just change your will. Simple.
Okay.
Okay.
But who can I, if I don't have a friend or family member to do it, then what are my choices?
Well, you're limited by your options. Obviously, if all you have are your children, you have to name your children. I think you can maybe ask the court to appoint an executor.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want your children to do it, though? Pick one and have them do it. It's not that big a deal.
Yes, it is. I did it for my mother's estate, and it was awful.
Okay, but let me ask you this, though. If you
They did it for their dad's estate, and it was awful. So no, I don't want them doing it.
Okay, so then get a trust where you can avoid it all with a spillover will. Then you don't have to worry about it.
That might be an idea.
I think it is.
I think it's a good
Thank
idea.
you for your call.
Okay.
Hey, listen, you see what Melfi said? It's a good idea. You can avoid it all by getting a trust if she doesn't want them to do it. It shouldn't be a pain in the butt, though, Mark. Really, I mean, it's not. If there's a will as an executor, all you do is make sure the will is followed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, understand this, Ron. Until you go through something, you cannot really empathize with what these people are going through. So I have to be, I thank God that I've never been a beneficiary of a will. I've never had to be an executor. I know of it because it's what I do for a living, even though that's not my focal point of my practice. I know just enough to be dangerous. But until you go through it, you can't say it's not a big deal, because I've seen a lot of estates where it becomes really big deals and they're tortured and family members end up hating each other, and it divides a family. I mean, it should be easy, but when money is involved, when they say it's not about the money, it's about the money.
Well, there you go. You're on the air. What's your question?
Yeah. Hey, my question involves eminent domain.
Okay.
So my daughter's got a house in Columbiana. It's like a half an acre. So it's a 100-year-old house. They've decided they want to put money into a sidewalk, and they've pretty much surrounded her house on both sides, and they're taking away pretty much. Basically, I want to know if they make her whole yard concrete. Okay, eminent domain. If they got to take it to put a highway in, usually you get compensated some money. So they're taking her yard, basically all of it, away. Shouldn't she get compensated in some type of manner?
Well, when you say they're taking her whole yard away, you have to qualify
that.
I mean, if they're putting in a sidewalk,
Well,
I don't know that you have a cause of action. But if they're paving over
So
her
the
front and
sidewalk,
backyard,
It's taken up half her yard. Half of her yard is gone. They took down trees, plants, everything.
They got probably a right of way there to do that, though, don't you think, Mark?
I do.
Hey, we're going to run out of time. You got to call us next week, and we'll finish answering your question. Thank you, Attorney DeVecchio. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Ron.
Attorney Melfi.
You're welcome,
Appreciate it, guys. You be quiet here. Don't say anything till we conclude. The Legal Show brought to you by Beatrice Cop. Stay silent for me, guys, for a few minutes here.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Over the years, you've brought